I think people think they're better than they are. And I think that they believe they should have more than they do. They believe they should have more than they're actually able to get. People want to be seen a certain way. I would rather people think I have nothing, right? And then go back home and have everything I want. I wear Crocs and shorts from 4 years ago. I would rather people think I'm nobody.
I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. I guess that, to kick us off, would love to know how you got started. Like, how did you end up here, I guess, in the first place?
On accident, dude, honestly. I didn't know anything about the internet marketing world. I did, but I didn't. I bought a course from a famous fitness trainer years ago, right when I graduated college, and just failed so hard. And, I mathed it out and everything, and I knew exactly what I needed to do every day, every week to hit my income goals, which wasn't a lot, dude. It was like 80K a year. And the whole methodology was find fat people on Instagram and message them. Like, that was literally in the training. Like, literally find fat people on Instagram and message them to sell them fitness training. And dude, it was horrible. I didn't make any money. I had like a few sales calls, and it was just horrible. So I gave up on it, worked at a supplement shop, blah, blah, blah. We moved to Tennessee, and it was during COVID. So the job that I accepted down here was pulled back because offices were closed. And I ended up getting a job with Traffic and Funnels, not knowing who they were or anything. And I got incubated into the space then. And I remember getting in there making $45,000 a year. I was like, this is awesome. That's cool. And someone said they made $17,000 that month. And I just kind of laughed at them. I said, yeah, dude, no, you didn't. And then I got to look at everyone's pay stubs, like through the sales coordinator. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, these guys are serious. So I fell into it on accident, man. I didn't know what was happening, but I was in with the company getting free training because I was running their client success department. And I just intook everything that I could. And I didn't make a lot of money for a while. But I was just like, hey, man, people are paying a lot for these trainings, and I'm in it. So I may as well like just take what I can. So I did until I finally left. And one thing led to another. I'm just a good human. So people came around me. It took me a while to make good money, but the connections are really what built what I have. I don't think I have much, but everything I have was built off connections. I have no training. I've hired one mentor in my life. Everything's just been connections and learning from people's mistakes. I can tell you what you're doing wrong. Like I can see what you do wrong, but when I do it wrong, I'm like, oh, I got to learn that 7 times.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. Client success. I don't hear a lot of it nowadays in terms of, like being a key role. What was that like when you stepped into client success? Like, what did it actually mean back then?
I was hired as the client success director back then because they were selling a program that wasn't even a program. They were just selling an idea. And they were like, hey, we just sold a bunch of people into this like 10K program. We don't even have a program. I need someone to manage these people. So I'm coming in just like, okay, these people paid us 10 grand. Like, what are we doing with them? So I had to kind of figure out what the client journey looked like. I had to figure out, and this is through failing pretty hard. I had to figure out what the drop-offs and bottlenecks were in the process really, really quickly to understand how to give someone a really good client experience. And the only way I did that was listening to feedback from clients on what they hated. And I'm a super generous guy. So anytime someone was like, Dean, I want a refund, bro, I'm just clicking refund button. So I had a really, really pissed off sales team that I didn't work with, getting half of their deals refunded all the time. And I had to get some coaching on when to and when not to refund people. So I had to just like fall on my face consistently because I'm just like giving people refunds. I'm trying to build this process. We ended up going from 30 sign-ons a month to when I left, they were signing up 220. I had built the infrastructure there, not really knowing shit. It wasn't perfect, dude, by any means, but our client experience was just so much better. So my first intro to the space was, hey, we've got a program that sucks. You don't know anything about it, but make it better.
Yeah.
And I made it marginally better. And the one thing that made it marginally better was me just being a good human. Because like a lot of the people that I coached back then on sales, even though I didn't know sales, they still look up to me and they still come back to me regardless of the experience they had because of how I treated them.
Yes. Yeah.
Powerful.
Massive.
Dude.
Yeah.
insane.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
I've heard that a lot about you, Dean. Actually, just people I come across and on socials that I see that. Um, I don't see it a lot with other, like with everybody though. It's not a norm for that to sort of happen. Do you know what I mean? Do you think like in the space that we're in right now, there's a lot more take than there is sort of give?
there really is, man. There's a lot more take than give. And I think what it is, I think people think they're better than they are. And I
Mm,
think that they believe they should have more than they do. They believe they should have more than they're actually able to get. But dude, I'm a bodybuilder, and
mm.
I'm a big
Yes.
fan of you get the result for what you work for,
Yes.
right? You don't get the result without the hard work. Like there
Mm,
might be a fluke, you might do okay here and there, but if you want lasting results, the work needs to be put in. And what I saw early on with that business, when I was working in their client success department through Sales Mentor, was like they weren't putting in the work to do good deeds by their students.
yeah.
I mean, it was the boom of the internet marketing world. I don't blame them, dude. Like money was great, things were
That was
great,
good. Yeah.
good client experience for some people. You're not going to look at it because the money's good. But I started to notice really early on, goodwill went very far. And
Mm,
as we got into it further, and as I got further into my journey, I started to see that hey, if I do this for this person, right, later on it pays me off, it pays me, not just
mm,
financially, but I feel good about it. So the first like couple years of my journey before I focused on winning myself, and I just turned to winning myself like 4.5 years later, it was give as much as humanly possible, right? Now, if someone needs something, I will give. Of course, like if you're a random person I've never talked to and you're like, help me find a job, I'm not going to do that. Like at least
yeah.
like
Of course.
learn who I am first. But in every
Yeah.
interaction, it's what can I give? How can I give more to Patrick than what I take from Patrick? How can I
Mm,
give more to Sean than what I take from Sean? And it served me very well because the goodwill is something that I'm now able to go back on. And I think it was Alex Hormozy early on. I listened to him say, like, give as much as humanly possible. And a good example of this is because, well, when you want to take, they'll give it back. But
mm,
if I do
yeah.
something for you and immediately the next day I say, Patrick, would you pick me up for the airport tomorrow morning at 4 a.m.? You won't want to do it, but you'll say yes. So that
Mm,
ideology stuck in me both from seeing a bad client experience, but also like realizing that, hey, the more you put out, the more you get. And I'm happy with
yeah.
what I have, but I know later in life I'll want more. So I got into the giving stage and I still give as much as possible.
Mm,
But I'm now in the point where I kind of want to take a little bit, not
yeah.
take and hurt people, but take and with everything that I have coming in, feel good about where it came from.
Mm, yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. I resonate with that a lot. And I see it. Again, in the space there is a lot more probably entitlement. That's out there. It makes it really difficult.
No
So
doubt.
you mentioned at the beginning, some of the things, I guess, where the mindset is maybe of the majority of the sales world. Where do you think it comes from? Like, where does it stem from? Because it's more common rather than the
Dude,
exception.
it's not their fault, man. It's not their fault. It's their responsibility, but it's not their fault.
Mm,
Right? We have been overwhelmed over the past 4 or 5 years with advertisements on how easy it is to make X, Y, or Z. Right. And it's kind of like
yes.
we've been incubated by the market to
Mm,
believe that it's easy to do these certain things.
mm,
And it's like, and then we see people post about it. We're following our favorite mentor. We're following people who are doing it. So we've just become incubated with the ideology that like it's really easy to make 10K a month. For me and you, dude, it's
mm,
really fucking easy. I made 10K
yeah.
yesterday. Not that that's a stretch or anything, but I did, right?
Sure.
But in the beginning, it's like we think it should be easy because so and so does it, they do it, they do it. And what we also learn is most of the people that say they're doing it aren't actually doing it, or what they're actually projecting and putting out there isn't the reality. But because we're consistently put in front of these big wins that people say they have, or these big guarantees or these big offers, we start to believe in the back of our mind that it's true, that it's simple.
Mm,
But what they fail to mention is like the amount of skill, effort, networking, community, like what needs to actually be put in. And
mm,
the reason I'm good at this and I can actually see it for what it is, dude, I've been bodybuilding for 9 years.
mm,
Like, I'm not the biggest human in the world. Like, yeah, I'm bigger than most people. But, like, if you looked at me and looked at a pro bodybuilder, like, it is a significant difference. I'm much compared to them. Right. But I understand how much work has to go in to get any ounce of a result. And I don't think anything should be easy because what I have now isn't easy,
Mm.
right? What I have in
Yeah.
business now isn't easy. How I look, this shit's taken me 9 years. It's taken me 9 years.
Mm.
So like I've been able to at least like realistically look at it like, hey man, like
You've been at the grind.
it
Yeah.
I'd rather just grind for it and earn it than
Yes.
have a fluke and get it once. Because like
Yeah.
what we do once is great, but if we can't do it 10 times over, what does it mean? Nothing.
Means nothing. Yeah. Quickly.
So
I think it's quickly forgotten, right? Or you lose what you work for if you stop growing and you take a backseat to it. You know.
dude, you know how many people come to me like, and not that I'm getting a ton of messages, but like
Mm.
someone will ask me for my thoughts on something. And my initial response is like, what's our goal? Like, what are you working toward?
Mm.
Right. And how many people that are just so clueless and they're like, I want to make 50K a month and I want to do it by the end of the year. I'm like, whoa, there,
Mm.
big dog. Like, you're not going to do that. You're
Yeah.
probably not as special as you think you are. And I let a lot of people down and they probably think I'm really rude, but I would rather have them be pissed off of me in the moment than for me to sell them a lie or for me to say, yeah, dude,
Yes.
it's realistic, dude, like like, no, dude, you're probably not going to do that. There's
Mm.
experienced reps who have been in the space for 9 years who don't make that. I have a
Mm.
rep on one of my teams who's one of the most amazing sales reps I've ever worked with. Dude, he makes 20, 30. He does great. He's not making
Mm.
50. There's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
that goes into all of this game. And I think people get so short sighted and single focused on this is the path. When in
Mm.
reality, if there's the goal, like there have to be many avenues that come together to get there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. A lot of backstory that gets missed. You know
Yeah, I know
that
that's your
happens.
area, dude. The out of sales. That's the fun one.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy. I know we were chatting about it. In the DMs, like I think we share very similar views and values and things like that. One thing that you did mention about when you're in the online space and you kind of get caught in the bubble, you start seeing like I said, all these posts of people having success, but the likelihood of them actually doing it is like the it's pretty low, right? What have you sort of seen out there where people are projecting certain, let's call it image, for a lack of a better word,
Oh,
but
dude.
the reality is like very disconnected. Why do you think that happens? Like I think it's really common that it does happen more often than not.
Ego's the killer of everything, man. Like,
Mm.
I think people would rather look a certain way than be a certain way, be viewed a certain way than actually be that way. Because
Mm.
how many times have we seen a business owner say, I did 100K this month,
Yes.
right? Or I did X. Like I've seen business owners, we had a 100K day. It's like, okay, well, let's dig a little bit. Like, let's use our brain and dig a little bit. Because, dude, my business collected 90K last month. Does that
Mm.
mean I made 90K last month? Fuck no, it doesn't, dude. Right
Mm.
on the surface, if I went and posted, dude, my business made 90K last month. And that, dude, in the scope of business, that is nothing. Apple does
Yes.
billions a year. They do
Yes.
fucking millions, hundreds of millions a
Mm.
day. So it's like none of this is
Yeah,
even
man.
significant in the world at all. But it's like
Yeah.
if I went and posted, I made my business did 90K last month, but I didn't post my P&L. I didn't post what I actually like took home on that like cash wise, not revenue. I
Yes.
didn't post like what my expenses were. Like it's
Mm.
it's 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 like we're just posting highlights. It's like me renting a freaking
Selective highlights.
McLaren and like saying, "Look at my new car." It's like, well, dude, no.
Mm.
Like, but it's people want to be seen a certain way. Like I am very not that I'm special, man, but I'm different. I would rather people think I have nothing,
Mm.
right? And then go
Yeah.
back home and have everything I want. I wear Crocs and shorts from 4 years ago, and this shirt that's wrinkly as shit every day. I don't want people to know anything, dude. Like I would rather people think I'm nobody, right?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
that's more of my vibe rather than the opposite of everyone being, oh, he's a baller, but like you get
Mm.
home and it's your bank account's negative. Like
Yeah.
I flip opposite, right? And I think more
Mhm.
people need to be like that, but I don't think it's going to happen because ego rules the world. It rules the space. That's for goddamn
Rules of
sure.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a massive point, man. Like I said, I mean, I think we share very same ideals, same values. I'm the same. I don't necessarily. No one knows the other businesses that I that I have and run. Kind of behind the scenes.
They don't.
Aramco, who's probably the largest oil company, they did 121 billion in profit last year. It's pretty freaking insane, right?
I've never even
Um,
heard of them either, dude. I mean, I have
yeah.
studied oil, but it's like, dude, like everyone posting about your 10K a month or your business. It's like, dude, you are insignificant to the world.
Mm.
Like, no, none of these big players think about you. Like you are basically flexing in front of a bunch of people who are nobodies. And no offense, like I'm a nobody. In the scheme of things, I'm a nobody.
Sure.
Like we're impressing people that we don't even talk to or won't have any relationship with, or people
Mm.
will never meet in person. Like who do
Yeah.
I really care about impressing? My son. Do you think he gives a shit if I make 90K this month or two? No, dude, he doesn't give a
No,
fuck. What he
he
cares
doesn't
about
care.
is his dad spending time with me.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's who I can
100%.
impress. And if I can impress him,
100%.
I'm fucking good, dude.
You're doing good. Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, I share the same thing. Like, if my daughter wants time and I can spend that time and never have to say no because I have to work. I mean, that's the goal. For me. Um, in saying that, what needs to happen? Like, how does it get better? Sort of, how does the transition happen so that it's doing things like that is not the norm, and doing better things is, or improvement in the space can lead to better things.
Dude, I have a lead by example thought process on it.
Mm,
Because like how did it get that bad? It was a lead by example.
yeah,
Right? And
true, true.
it took a while. Like it took a while for people to be flexing all their numbers, flexing all the fake shit, talking about this, and that, how easy it is to do this because they saw value in it. I
Yes.
think what we've seen over the past 12 months is a trend toward the opposite direction. And I can only speak through my own experience, dude. Back in 2022, when I shut down my second business, I
Mm,
made a decision. And the decision was I don't care if anyone likes me, I'm going to be me. And
yeah.
if it bothers you, you can leave. Right. The
Hmm.
reason I did that is because the business I was working in, I had some business partners in California. And I believe what I believe. I'm going to say what I want to say. And I actually had a few clients of ours refund because of how I felt politically. And I wasn't afraid to talk about it.
Sure.
And I try and not get into politics because I don't really care. But I said
Mm,
some things politically online and they refunded and we lost like 40K, 45K, something like
wow.
that. And my business
Wow.
partners were like, you can't talk about that stuff. And I was
Mm,
like, well, like, yes, I can. And I don't talk about politics, but it came through as I want to be more authentic. And if it bothers people, if it pushes people away from me, like I'm okay with the repercussions that come with it
yeah.
because what it's going to draw back is the individuals that are supposed to be here. And exactly what I wanted it to do did, but at a much larger scale than I'd expected. Because
Yes.
as soon as I started doing that, like, dude, a lot of people were like really like loving what I had to put out.
Mm,
And as I started going more and more and like building my personal brand, not on accident, I had a mentor tell me to do it. I
yeah.
started to mix the realness in with just being a human and being me and posting more about my results. And people were attracted to it, not because I was talking about all this money or all this fame or all these things I was doing, but I was giving them the truth. And they were starting to get to
Mm,
see deep. And I don't know, like we've only been Facebook friends for a little bit, even though we've probably known of each other for a while. But if you read my Facebook posts and you meet me on Zoom, in person, over the phone, it's pretty much the fucking same. You
it's the
don't get
same. Yeah.
on how, dude,
Yeah.
Messenger, it's all the same.
Yeah.
There's cohesion. And I think we're moving toward that right now
It's
because
good.
people are starting to see the value in like their self, themselves.
Mm,
They're starting to actually say, hey, like people don't just like me for what I do or what I bring to the table or what I show. They like me for who I am as a person.
yeah.
Right. And when they like me for who I am as a person, then we get into the other details. Like I
Yeah.
hire people based on skill set, but I also hire people based on do I like them as a person. My
Oh,
assistant right
100%.
now, dude, I
Mm,
hired her. We had a common trait. We're both in recovery. I hired her for one of my teams, shit, like a year and 5 months ago. And anywhere I
mm,
go, she'll go now. Like she's now my assistant at my company. She followed me. Right? I
yeah.
hire people based on that because I think the relationship is so much more valuable than us viewing each other in a certain path.
Yeah.
So I think to
Yeah.
answer your question, how do we change that? I think we're moving toward it. And I think it takes conversations like this, people like you and
Mm,
me, to just put the real shit out there. Because
yeah.
when people start to see real, it starts to shine lights on things that are fake. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you
Yeah.
can't see the light unless you've seen the darkness, right? You can't feel good
Yes.
unless you feel bad. You can't feel happiness unless you've seen sadness. And we've seen so much shit. Now that we're seeing gold, which is just real, they're starting to be like,
Mm,
yo, like this stuff over
this
here is
is
not that good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
you know what
This
I mean?
real
Like,
stuff is actually useful. You know what I mean? Like it's getting me somewhere. You know
dude,
what I mean?
it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
That's
Such
cool. That's really cool. Great perspective on it. And I suspect, maybe in the coming weeks, people watching this are going to get more real with their content. I would say, which I think it'd be good for the space, good for everybody, right?
Yeah, I was having a conversation with JD the other day.
Mm.
I don't know if you and JD daily talk ever. Maybe you guys are friends. Maybe you aren't.
Yeah,
But
we've been on an episode. Yeah,
dude, he
we had a
said
good
something
episode.
to me that really stuck out. And he's like, dude, I'm tired of all this, like sales reps expecting this from business owners expecting this from sales reps. He's like, there needs to be a voice of reasoning in the middle to
Hmm.
bridge the gap. Otherwise, there's always going to be this division. And I
Yes.
mean, that's the theme of the world right now. But the division right now that we're talking about is real versus fake, good people versus bad people. And I think the conversations like this are similar to the ones that need to be had between business owners and sales reps. It's we need to talk about it more and more so people can see the reality of what's going on and what's happening so we can shift it back into better business, right? People actually
Mm.
caring. And the more we talk about it, right, not just like rant about it every day, but the more we bring
Yeah.
light to it, bring more thoughts, analogies, perspectives, it starts to show people like, hey, there are some good people in this space. Not everyone's trying to fuck you. If Dean
Yeah.
asks me for 10K for his program, he's not just going to run off or he's not going to provide a shitty service because everyone's been burned so bad that
Mm.
it's almost hard to trust people.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it doesn't matter what you put in front of them. It's, like in the market now, not just for sales reps, but anywhere, there's always, it's people are more skeptical just in general now, right? So, I think, yeah. And I think I'd love to know kind of the backstory, but with what you're doing now with STS and, the things that you're building out, because I know it has kind of this mission for it, right? To bring some realness, bring something new to the table, working
Yeah.
with businesses. What's your vision look like there?
Um, Personal vision is to pay this house off that I'm building, truthfully.
Nice.
eight hundred
Yeah.
thousand dollar house. It's not like a multi-million-dollar house. My vision is to pay that off and do good things. Right. I'm very goal
Nice.
oriented. If I can see it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Um, but the reason we started it, like truth be told, I managed a really big sales team back last year and left. I took them from 1 to 5 million a month in 5 months. And of course, there were other
Wow.
people on the team that played a full role there. So it wasn't just
Mm,
all me. I can't
sure.
say like I am God and I did this. Right place, right time, right person. You know what I mean? There were
Yes.
also right people in the right seats across the board. We came together and
Still
did
made
it
it
well.
happen. Mm,
I was just a part of the team. Could
yeah.
someone else have done it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I was the person.
You
So
were
when
there.
I
Yes.
left there, I started to realize, well, I'm actually pretty good at this stuff. But I didn't know what I wanted to do because my son was being born. We had just bought a house. So I
Mm,
started to like play around with some teams.
yeah.
And I just started to realize like I wasn't really happy internally with companies. So I was like, well, let me launch some mentorship and just like put something out there and see if people buy it. And a bunch
Mm.
of people signed up. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. Um, Now I just let me put something else out there. And people started buying it. And then through mentoring people on whatever, like whatever they needed, helping people with sales, we had some managers come through.
Yeah.
We started to recognize where I was actually having fun, and it was working with
Mm,
managers. So I
yeah.
just kind of scrapped all the other clients, fulfilled on what I needed to fulfill on, gave them some extra time. Some of them are still in my group, and I don't charge them just
Yes.
because I felt like I owe them something just because I took their money. But we
Mm,
started to like really gear into the managers. And as we launched that, some businesses came to us and they're like, hey, can you help us? We need help with our team. So we started selling some team management. And I'm like, okay, like we've got to figure out what we're doing here.
mm,
So we started getting into done for you management consulting, just working with managers. And we started to realize that, hey, management, there's a small cap on it. And not that I care about
yes.
scale, but like my impact is going to be very, very short sighted if I don't find a way to systematize this for more people.
Yes.
So after talking with Sean and talking with a guy who owns equity in my company, I was like, there's someone in the space who does something similar, and all I've ever heard are bad experiences. So let
Mm,
me build it better because it's kind of the medium ground between wanting to help more people, but also doing what we're doing. So we tested it with a few clients. One client, dude, we brought their close rate up from 7 to 25%. Actually had their close rate or show rate go up from 40 to 60%, more leads
wow.
coming through, more profitability. And I was like, I think we can do this pretty well. Let's build out a process, not just with him. We took on another client and just cut his ad spend in half, doubled his revenue. Like we did a lot of cool stuff. But we're like, okay, how are we doing this?
Mm.
So we built a process and we're like, okay, this is something that we can probably like do at quote unquote scale and help more
Yes.
people and get the same impact that we want. So after like just talking about it for a while, I built out a structure on how we do it. And we audit teams very, very in depth, everything from top of funnel all the way to close deal. And we just walk in every direction. Like we just audited a team here today. It took about 4 hours between yesterday and today, between calls, set calls, DMs, everything they had everywhere. And we came
Yeah.
up with a laundry list of what's wrong. And then we matched that to their data, which things are going to have the biggest impact on the business. If I fix this one thing, what is going to have the biggest impact? And then we list them out 1 through 100. It's not usually 100 just for vanity metrics.
Yes.
We'll list it out and we'll say the potential impact there, and then we go and fix it. But that came from seeing really shitty people in the space do it bad. And the clients that I am working with, every single team that I'm working with had come from another trainer in the space who they just had a horrible experience with. I was like, well, they had a horrible experience with them. We were able to actually do it for them, not because like our system and process works, but because we work and we care, and every client is different and we honor and respect that. So let's do it different. Like, let's not build a program where it's in this box. Let's build a program that audits the team, gives them everything they need, and then find out how we're going to fulfill on it, find our cap. And then once we reach it, then we figure out, do we want to go more or do we want to go less? So it ended up becoming STS, which is sales teams suck, because most teams do suck. They just don't know it. Every manager said it once in their life, or every owner. And we just audit very, very in depth, and everyone's problems are different. You know what I mean? Some people have very minimal problems that are causing big issues. Some people, it's like a burning bush. It's right in your face. But our ideology there is like, let's actually audit and consult with their team, not try and say, here's an account manager who's also working with 70, 80 accounts. Let them work with you when they can. Like, let's get into the weeds. Let's work with the manager. Let's fix their problems. Let's move forward. And if we do that, there's no way everyone doesn't win. Like, I'd be surprised if we have any bad client experiences, because they're working with myself. They're working with Sean. Will has his hand in the pot. Or Peyton does some sales training. So with all of us together viewing the process and working with them, there's no way a team can lose. Like, we're at least going to bring one number up 1%. And if that's all we do, I'll give them their money back. But when we're all looking at it in a similar fashion, but external to the company, we give them what they truly need. Because as you know, most sales problems are not actually sales problems. It's usually people, systems, or just like offer problems. And usually people and systems are where we find the most broken shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
100%.
came upon through seeing really bad stuff in the space and how bad experience people had. And then also like what came out on the other side, like how bad their team was after, how non-profitable they were. And I was like, this is just sad. Like, this is
it's sad,
really
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And obviously it affects not just the business owner, but the reps that come into the space and, come into the teams. And, after you've kind of worked all these things, just the ripple effect on everybody else that happens is a bigger impact, right?
Yeah. And we're talking about like we talked a little bit about branding and being honest and being ourselves. It's really cool. From giving, doing good things, and caring about people, we collected $90K last month. I know it's not a big number. I've done zero marketing. I don't literally post 2 steps. I don't do a bunch to like draw people in. Like, when you do good things and you care about people and you continuously do those 2 things day after day after day, like, good comes back to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you religious at all?
My parents are religious. I'm not so religious these days, but
I had an experience in Kroger the other day. It was really weird. I've been giving for so long, dude. When I go to the gas station in the morning, I'll buy 3 coffees, but I'll only take 1. And I'll just tell the lady to give it to 2 people who buy it.
wow.
I do this like frequently every week. I give to people. I donate. I put money toward people's programs and places they need it. I don't tell them it's for me. And I was in Kroger the other day. No one ever gives me anything. And some guy was just like sitting there, like waving to my son as out in line at Starbucks. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, I'm very standoffish in public because I don't want to talk to people. But he's just like, you guys having more kids? Family's everything. I was like, maybe. And he talks to me for like 15 minutes out of nowhere. He goes and buys my coffee, my wife's coffee, and then talks to us for another 15 minutes. And I was like, this is the first time in the past 4 years someone's went out of their way to give me something, to buy
Mm.
me something, to do something for me outside of like my
Yeah.
birthday, my family, whatever.
Yes.
Like this is a sign that I've given so much that it's time to actually start taking back.
To start
I've
coming
done
back to
enough
you.
good in the world that good is now on its way back. So it's time to
Mm.
open my arms and receive what I've given.
Yeah.
And that led to a baller last month, blah blah blah. But we're like, okay, like this is a sign that we have done
Mm.
enough in the world, and that there's been enough bad in the world that good is making its way back to good.
Mm. Yeah. That's huge. I think
Interesting,
that's
man.
huge. Yeah. And I think there's like a real key moment in that as well. And like what I take away from it is that you haven't just been giving yesterday to receive these things, right? Like you said, like it's a culmination of doing and doing and doing it without necessarily expecting anything. And I think maybe that's a trap some people will fall into, and they give and then they don't get anything, and that's the expectation too.
Hmm.
Um, do you know what I mean? I think this is a culmination of you doing good things for a long period of time, right?
It's kind of like a sales call, man. When you want the sale, you don't get the sale. But when you're truly
Mm.
disconnected from it and truly
Yeah.
there to find the truth and get to the outcome that makes sense for them, you typically win. Dude, we started
Mm.
doing something 4 years ago, and it was around Christmas time. I didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of money, but I would take in donations on Venmo. And my wife was a server, so I know how hard they work. And everything we'd get, we would just leave a tip. First year, we
Yeah.
put like 700 down. Second year, it was like a little over 1,000. And we've done this every year. And like last year, we donated a couple $1,000s of business money to a random charity. And like we do all these things, we don't want it back, dude. Right? But
Mm.
it's the giving aspect that I like.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
finally seeing that, like, oh, like someone's giving back to me. It's a weird feeling, but it's like, hey, if this is happening, there's a reason. Someone
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how humble you are about it as well. You know, there are some. I'll say that there's some givers. Maybe they do it for good intentions. Maybe they do it for status. Maybe they do it for like they broadcast it so that people know that they're givers, which is I think is a totally wrong way to do it. I don't get impressed by it. You know, when that happens.
Like the people that film them giving away a big tip, or it's like, dude, the fuck are you doing, man? Like
Yeah.
when we were doing the big tips, someone asked me to film it. I'm like, dude, that's so
Yeah.
degrading to the person. No,
To the
like
person that yeah.
we gave $1,000 tip at Red Robin one year, and the cool part is like when we handed it to her, she didn't even count the cash. She didn't even know it was in it. We
Wow.
walked out of the restaurant, no one said anything.
Yes.
Dude, we went back in there
Yeah.
weeks later. I'm pretty sure she saw us
Mm.
under the table. It was some middle-aged mom working in the. You could tell she was hustling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No one said anything about it. She was given a gift, regardless
Mm.
of if she remembers it was from us or someone else. It's like it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Like
matter. Yeah.
what matters is the action and our intent behind it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And obviously the impact that you know from that action anyway. Like you just yeah kind of assume that that's the case. I was going to ask you something that kind of came to mind. I know you've kind of shared, you know, some of the goals and things like that that you had. That's and working with managers. I come across a lot of salespeople who are managers, but also a lot of salespeople who would like to see maybe a transition into that at some point. Um, what do you think? And I've seen some good ones and some bad ones. What do you think makes a good manager? Because you're working with quite a few. So what are some of the maybe traits or skills, or is there anything special that would make somebody, you know, from being someone decent, somewhat decent to, you know, being really good and being impactful?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. Because I've seen some good ones and I've seen some bad ones. And I think it's really hard to mess up if you're a good person and you put in the work.
Mm,
Because everything's sales management related. It's all data, dude. And
mm,
if you
yes.
can give a shit about people and you can read data and make decisions based off data, you'll always make the right decisions. So like if you can do those things, you'll be all right. The superpower in management, and I tell my clients this all the time, it's having the ability to zoom in and zoom out, right? Because I need to zoom out and see the entire process. I think what people forget to recognize in sales management is there's not one thing that's ever going to change the game. It's usually a
Yes.
combination of many things. So when we zoom out and we see the process, we're going to identify within our funnel, right, our line, however you want to
Mm,
view it. What's the
yeah.
biggest problem? Let's zoom in, let's fix it. And while it's being like worked on, After we've done what we need to do, we zoom back out and we zoom into the next one, right? And that is what makes a good manager. It's not always about knowing what to do, when to do it. It's being very proactive about fixing the problems within the system. Because every fix you put in, dude, you might strike out on it. You might have a base hit. Some might be a home run, right? You might be Derek Jeter. You might just be a stud. And I'm only saying that because of the hat. But like you will have some times where what you do doesn't work. But what we want to do is like zoom in, zoom out, right? I see the process. Oh, there's a problem here in pre-call. Let me go see what's going on there. Let me fix it. Let me zoom back out. I'll audit those numbers later. I'm looking at everything. Here's the next issue. Dude, pipeline's not managed correctly. Zoom back out. Closer A's, close rate went down. And when we consistently can zoom in and out, right, we start to solve problems at a very, very fast speed. And when we solve problems in a very, very fast speed, right, you're going to fuck some shit up. You're going to break some things. Some things aren't going to go the way you want them to, but you are consistently moving the team forward. And that's the most important thing. If I make a change with the team, I have no guarantee it's going to work. I have data, I have experience, I have this telling me it's going to work, but really I have no clue, right? I'm taking a very educated guess based on what I've seen previously, based on what their data suggests. But I have no clue, and I will own that. But the thing that makes the team do it really well is when I make a decision and do something like that, and this is also what makes a good manager, is when you make that decision, making it in confidence, right? If I tell a team to do something, I'm telling them very, very confidently that this is what we should see from it. This is how you need to do it. And when I portray that confidence, even though I'm 80, 90% sure, they're 100% certain in it. And their certainty is what makes them better. I don't need to know it's going to work. They just need to know that I have their back or the manager has their back. And if they do, they're going to execute at the best of their ability. If there's any part of them that seems that like, hey, Patrick, he doesn't seem so sure about this process, they're also unsure about that process, right? So the ability to zoom in and out, but also having confidence when you zoom in to fix that problem. If you tell someone to do this on their sales call, have confidence in your ability as a leader. Because even though it may not be the exact right move, you're going to get the data necessary to make the correct one next time.
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's like a mini masterclass on sales management right there. Which would be, a good thing for people to just think naturally about, right? But they don't. So
yeah, I mean, dude, we're actually going to start doing lives weekly with the IP we're putting into our course because we're going to film it live and let people watch it. And then we're going to put it in our course. And the funny thing I've learned about teaching people things, and this, is like you can give it to them all day long, but they're still not going to get it.
They're still not going to.
They're still not going to get it, dude. Any free course you've ever gotten, how many people have actually went and watched something free and actually implemented and done it? Not many, dude. Like even in courses that people pay for, like they need to be walked through it. So it's like a lot of people are going to see that. They're going to hear it and be like, oh, that's so good. But they're not going to be able to go do it. Yeah. They're going to need to be shown how to do it and audited on it because what people lack is confidence in their ability to actually make the right decision, right? And when they lack the confidence, there it shows in their results.
Yeah, for sure. And also they'll implement one step, but not the whole step because, they won't get the result maybe instantly or immediately, and then they won't know how to course correct. And then that's kind of leads to, well, that didn't work, and then scrap it and look for the next thing. Which I see all the time.
Yeah, it's like the old Hormozy method when he talked about sending out flyers for his first gym. And he's like, well, it didn't work. And his mentor said, well, how many did you send out? 100? Okay, go send 1,000. Right? It's like we need to do the damn thing significantly over and over again before we can decide if it is or isn't going to work. Because if you have a small sample size, you can't really draw to conclusions from that.
Yeah, no, you can't. You really can't. I think you limit yourself and your thinking and your mindset kind of all falls into that, trap.
Yeah. I have an interesting outlook on a lot of this stuff, man. And I know I'm not different. I don't think I'm special. And I've actually put myself in rooms recently that's made me feel really dumb. But I try and view things differently than everyone else. Not because I think I'm better, but because I think there's better ways to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, anything in the world, it's come off of different thinking. It's come off of someone wanting a different way, wanting a different pathway. And when we consistently want a different pathway, right, why we created STS, why we created the management training, it's to offer the world something different, to create different types of people. Like that's where innovation like innovation leads to winning there, like innovating
Yeah.
processes, finding something that works. How can I make it better? That's where the life changing shit happens. Right. So I try and think
Mm.
about things different, and I try and just like audit my own process and my own thought processes. Am I thinking about this correctly?
Mm.
Like coming
Yeah.
on this podcast, like what is my goal of this podcast? I mean, I could definitely like hopefully people see it and want to pay me. That's cool. But like my actual intention is, dude, another good guy in the space I can hang out with is like it's a
Mm.
win, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care about the
Yeah. Me
leads
too,
that
man.
come from it. I don't care about any of this stuff. It's like the relationships and what I'm able to pour into. If I can bring Patrick some clients or I can do something like this
Mm.
is how I think and this is what the world needs to see to win, right? But everyone's like, well, what's in it for me? Probably nothing then.